show in the 60s. Does anyone have a memory of the 60s?
No.
One, two.
No.
Oh, there's a three. Okay. I'm sure most of you weren't even born yet. But, well, anyway, the show was called Hullabaloo. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah.
You do, you do. Great. It was about go-go dancers. And they wore mini skirts and short white boots, just the girls. And they danced. Now, let me ask you, for those of you born after the 60s, do you have names for your dances today?
Yeah.
What's the name of one of your dances?
Work.
Marriage. Dougie.
Dougie like Douglas, but Dougie.
We did the swim, and the monkey, and whoops, and four corners. So anyway, I was thinking about that show because I loved it, and I found out later on in my youth, which is what you're living, enjoy it. Yeah. I remember my youth. I used to be called Honey. You know, the guy behind the deli counter would say, "Okay, here's your change, honey," or sweetheart, or miss. But I don't get called Honey anymore. You know, there was one day when he said, "Thanks, ma'am." I was in shock. And that's it now. It's all man. I try to like jump in and just say bye before he says it. Well, I found out later that I could make money as a topless go-go dancer. My neighbor in the East Village showed me her G-string. It was made entirely of beads, little pink and white beads, handmade by little old Italian ladies from Little Italy. They were just, it was beautiful. It's beautiful. I still have it. I know it's not sad. Deep in my closet. It's kind of like owning a beaded dress, only just the cutouts, you know. Well, she told me to go to a place in the 50s, so I went to this office in the 50s on the second floor. Can you hear me? I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
I'm fine. All right. So I went there. And what?
Yes. Yeah.
I was looking out the window across the street, and I saw this sign that said JoJo Dancers. I don't know if it's there anymore. And this guy tapped me on the shoulder. I looked around. His hair was greasy, and he had a big face, big eyes, big nose, big lips. He goes, "I pay $50 a night." That was a lot of money. You work 20 on, 20 off, and on your downtime, you circle the bar and get the customers to buy you a drink. I can't drink alcohol. I'm afraid I'll lose my power and accept a ride home from some creep. Oh, well, the Metropole in Times Square, they had a long oval bar, and we danced on a raised stage in the middle. The Japanese guys, they always bought me a drink. I didn't have to convince them. I never sat on anybody's face. I didn't like tips. I didn't want any tips, particularly like that, although there weren't any other kind of tips. I don't want any fingers in my G-string and dirty dollars, you know. So, I didn't make as much money as everybody else, but that's all right. I chose my stage name, Melody, and I don't know why, actually. Peaches was taken. Brandy was a transvestite. I worked with her, actually. I mean, I danced on this part of the stage, and she danced on that part. And she just had extra of everything, you know. It was so crazy. Anyway, I was going to college. I was a college student at the time, but not attending. I was going to New York University, New York University School of the Arts for Acting. And because I was late all the time and didn't go to class, I was kicked out by Olympia Dukakis, yes, the movie actress, Michael's cousin, Dukakis. She was one of the acting teachers and had a firm voice in how to treat recalcitrant students. But it really wasn't my fault. My boyfriend, who was living with me, was training to be a priest. He kept me up until 4 in the morning every night. He was insatiable. He was a fallen Jesuit trainee. The Jesuits are very liberal. If one of their trainees wants to go to acting school in New York City, they allow it, as long as he kept his vow of celibacy. But he couldn't resist me. So I took the job. It wasn't my fault. It was on my 3rd gig driving to these places, and it was still weird, so Kevin came with me. We drive out to Roslyn, Long Island, and it was a dark bar with high ceilings. "I'll take a seat here," Kevin said as he sat at the bar. The bartender called me over. "You can change in the John over there, honey." There was only one John, and I was the only girl there. So I put on my fishnet stockings and wriggled into my G-string and put the pasties on with something sticky. I was talking to a former showgirl last week, and she told me that we put our pasties in with something, well, it was eyelash glue. It's not what I remember. She's a psychoanalyst today. Probably know. So I walk out in my high-heeled sandals and my pink polyester wraparound mini that I take off for the little striptease act in the beginning. But the first thing I notice when I look at the small stage is there's no pole. I'm used to making love to a pole. There was a mirror on the back wall, a dirty rug, and a piano bench, but no piano. So I danced around the bench for 20 minutes. And then I descended the stage and walked up to the bar. The bartender called me over. He said, "Is that your boyfriend over there? He's got to go. He can't stay here." "But he's my boyfriend. How will I get home?" So Kevin went out to the car for the next 3 hours. Then he said, "Listen, honey, is this your first time?" It wasn't, but I knew he wanted me to say it was, so I said yes. And he said, "See that bench up there on the stage?" "Uh-huh." "Fuck that bench." So actually these evenings helped me with an acting job I got years later. I was cast in Oliver Stone's film Talk Radio. My part was called Sexy Woman. You wouldn't have noticed unless you paid a lot of attention. Well, you couldn't see me, I was only a voice. Most of the actors in the film were voices only. They called into the talk radio station. About 5 of the actors and I were sitting in a small room around a table. Each one of us had a microphone in front of us on a mic stand. We wore headsets. Everyone in the warehouse where we were shooting wore headsets. You know, whatever we said was heard by everyone. Even the people who were on camera, the actors seen on camera, wore headsets because, of course, they were working at a talk radio station. Well, then it was my scene. I spoke to the host of the talk radio station, played by Eric Bogosian. "I think you're very lonely because you don't know how to love." And then I hear Oliver's voice, "Freddie?" Everyone listens. "Yes, Oliver?" "Fuck the mic." Showbiz.